Stars and Smokes. Stars and Smoke. It's just smoke. There's only one smoke. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing something I've actually been looking forward to since I first started my YouTube channel, which is a tier ranking of books. So I'm taking this opportunity to do like my mid-year check-in. It is July 8th. I've read 57 books this year. We're gonna go through and rank all of them on one of these like tier ranking things that I've always wanted to do. So I found this like basic template that someone made for other books, and I'm basically just gonna adapt it to use for books I've read this year. So kind of a different vibe, different type of video today, but I think it'll be a good time. And while I go through my favorite books this year, and maybe some of the books I didn't like so much, I want you to tell me what were your favorite books of the year so far, and what books should I maybe stay away from. Let's get started. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of go in order of that I read the books. So starting with Last Violent Call. And as I tell you about these books, I'm gonna try to avoid spoilers. So Last Violent Call, I think it fits in this just like exclamation point. I always love Chloe Gong's writing. I love this novella. It was just like a fun, great time. The only reason it doesn't sit like with some of my solo experiences for the first time again is like I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun, but it's not like mind-blowing. I think I give this like 4.5 stars or something. It was a great time. The love match, I'm actually gonna put into the did I like, would I recommend it? Sure category. So I enjoyed this book. I do think this book for me needed like a couple rounds of editing. I think I needed a couple more chapters. Like I enjoyed it, but I feel like it needed a little bit more to kind of take it to a higher ranking for me. But it was a good time. I will say, because this one has Muslim rep, so let me just like, give a quick commentary on the Muslim rep. The characters are Muslim. There is Muslim stuff in it. I think it's decent rep. It is like a dating, like a non-halal dating thing, but the characters recognize that what they're doing isn't like Islamically correct, which I think is the best case scenario you can have with Muslim rep in these type of books. That while what they're doing isn't Islamically correct, they acknowledge that, and there's no like putting down of others that are more Islamic. Solid book. Okay. Cool Awkward Black. This is one of those, I think, called anthologies where a bunch of authors write in one book. So I really enjoyed this when I read it at a time, but not gonna lie, I kind of forgot I read this. And I think it's just because for me, I think this is the thing with me with all anthologies, they don't like stick out to me as much. So I don't think anthologies are for me. I mean, I gave this 5 stars and I'd recommend it if like you like anthologies. Like I gave it 5 stars. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I forgot I read it. Spice Road would sell my soul to experience again. Spice Road is one of my favorite books of the year. I love this book. I got like the crazy beautiful like special edition for it. Amazing. Stolen Air, Holy Black. Love it. I am a Cruel Prince fan. I know some people aren't like oh, the tails and the hooves. I get it. I love Cruel Prince. I'm trying to make these fit. Squeeze you in over here. Alright. Last of the Talents. I think this is the book I've talked about the most this year. Last of the Talents, for me, like, this is my Joker, and nobody talks about this book. And I think it's such a good book. Obviously, I would sell my soul to experience this again. Korean-inspired YA fantasy. The tension and slow burn of this romance, along with all the fantasy and the magic. Oh, I love this book so much. I'll tell you as you go my top books of the year. Last of the Talents is one of them. So just letting you know. Okay, so this year I actually started reading The Trials of Apollo, which is kind of a shocker. I've never read Trials of Apollo before. So I am enjoying every second of it. This is my first time reading it. It's been a while since I've read like new material by Riordan because I consumed his books so long ago. But Trials of Apollo have been wonderful. Next up, we have The Ballad of Never After. Listen, I liked Caraval. I enjoyed it. Like, it was like a good solid 4-star series for me. And then I picked up Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm vibing. But I wasn't like crazy about it yet. This book made me crazy about the series. Like it was so good. I think I finished this in like a night. Exhilarating. If I could explain it in one word, it would be exhilarating. What a joke of a book. Falling for Korea. So I read this book. I went in blind. Like I forgot. I think I requested the arc on Neck Alley and like didn't take a closer look at the like. I was like, okay, this looks cool. Let me request it. And sometimes I just go on like this thing of requesting books, only to find out it was written by, I don't know if I can call her like a Koreaboo. So the book itself read super like 2012 Wattpad, super possessive guy, super like girl who can't make decisions for herself, and it was just read super weird. And then I noticed like some of, like, I'm by no means an expert in any type of culture like other than my own. So I'm not saying I'm an expert in Korean culture, but from what I'd read with other Korean books and like what I knew of it, and I know how easily Korean culture fantasized and fetishized these days, and I kind of picked up on some weird things in there, especially with like the word oppa, which is like a big thing I know in like when people tend to like fantasize and fetishize Korean culture, they really latch onto that word, although it can be used in a non-romantic sense as well. And I noticed that in the book, and I went and like looked into it later. And this book was like written by like some Koreaboo white lady. I think he's obsessed with Korean culture, and literally, oh my god, I don't know if I can show you on this thing. You can't. It's literally the top here. This top tagline, which wasn't on my Neck Alley arc. It's something about like one dream, one oppa. It was weird. Actually, I'm gonna make this bottom category. I'm simply not picking this book up. So this is, I think, more for like a TBR section, but we're gonna utilize it. Lowest rank. We'll leave this for like my like 2 stars. This is like the worst. Next we have Saint. I enjoyed it. Look-y kind of forgot about it. See, this is part of the like Fable universe, you know, the Fable and Namesake. The author's name is Dreen Young. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I feel like after Fable and Namesake, her books became very forgettable for me. Like I went and read the rest of them, like Lost Legacy and all those, and I was just like, they're meh. They weren't as good as the original duology for me. I do love her other book, Sky in the Deep. Love that book. That's a Viking-inspired one. Amazing. This is so much fun. I love ranking things. Okay, Chain of Thorns. I originally, when I first read this book, I think I gave it like 5 stars. I think I'm gonna lower my ranking a bit because there were some things that were annoying. We're gonna kind of put it like in the middle here. In the middle of the exclamation points and in the middle of it was enjoyable, forgettable, because I'm very attached to the characters, but I do feel like I got annoyed with the book. And I think Cassandra Clare has this problem where her books are always way too long. We're gonna put it in the middle here. I think I'm just gonna leave it there. Always Isn't Forever. You Reach Sam for me was such a disappointing read. Like all the hype I saw for it was so disappointing. And so when I saw this cover, and this book is comped to You Reach Sam, I was like, let me try this one. Much better. I loved this one. I think this is what You Reach Sam was trying to do. But I mean, a lot of people like You Reach Sam, so that's fine. I'm still talking about it. Always Isn't Forever. I really enjoyed. I'm gonna put it in the, I don't know how to enunciate with this. Yeah, it's like screaming. I'm just hearing it screaming in my head. This little tear. Wow, so far so good. One for All I liked. This is a Three Musketeers retelling. And there is Chronically Ill rep. I'm trying to remember. I think it's Potts. I could be incorrect about that. I'm gonna put this one also here, kind of in the middle. I really enjoyed this book, but it wasn't like super lasting memorable. It was like a solid 4 stars. It was solid. Solid. Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. This is my experience with Talia Hilbert's writing, and I loved it. I'm always down for a good rom-com. This was so much fun. I'm gonna put this in my like exclamation point 1. Okay, we're getting to the exciting parts. Little Thieves. Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now, Little Thieves. I'm too excited. Let me click out of this. Immediately would sell my soul experience Little Thieves again. Little Thieves and Painted Devils, and I'm grouping them into one of my top reads of the year. That's it. That's the tweet. Or that's the thread, because we have threads now. I actually am iffy on these next 2 books I'm going to talk to you about. Gilded and Cursed. I read back to back. This is Marissa Meyer's work. And I liked it, but there was something about it, and I can't tell you what it is, like something I can't put my finger on about it that I didn't like. And I think I'm gonna put them like, I think I gave one like 4, one like 3.5. I think I'm just gonna put them here, like in the middle. of it was enjoyable, forgettable, but did I like it, and would I recommend it? Sure, because I enjoyed it enough, but there was just something, like, it wasn't, something was off for me, and I don't know what that was. So we're just gonna leave it there for now. I think we're starting to get into the part of the year where I started having a lot of disappointments. Echoes and Empires. I really, really liked Morgan Rhodes' other work. I love the Fallen Kingdom series. This book read, like, so underdeveloped. The tropes in it and, like, the guy, like, the love interest were, like, very, like, 2013, 2014 love interest. And the whole book did not feel like her other writing. I'm just like, okay. Like, for me, Fallen Kingdom, I think that series read for me like Game of Thrones for young adult. Like, it was very intense, very serious, such a good read. And then this one kind of just felt really flat for me. I think because I went in with those expectations. Speaking of not enjoying books, I tried reading Vampire Academy this year. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know that didn't go well. I am going to put them all in the same spot. I read up to, I DNF'd after the 5th one. And you're like, wow, Basma, that's really far. Why didn't you just finish? This was so, like, unenjoyable to read. I hated every second of this. So I'll start by saying it's definitely a product of its time, right? This book was written a while ago. And I try to, like, keep that in mind when I go and I read series that were published forever ago. Or not forever ago, I'm not that old. When they were published a while ago, I try to keep that in mind. Like, okay, these tropes were popular at the time. This is how things were written at the time, you know. I try to be, like, aware of that. But also, the age gap. Like, what? Why are we reading, like, a teacher-student relationship in season minor? I felt so icky. And, I just know. I couldn't do it. Sorry to everyone who loves them. I couldn't do it. But I tried. I DNF'd in Spiritbound. There was one of them, I think, that actually got, like, decent for me, that I was, like, decently enjoying. But then, like, the whole thing with Dimitri, I had somebody spoil the ending for me. Like, I went and messaged them, and I was like, hey, can you just tell me how the series sounds? Like, I just want closure. And they told me, and I was like, okay, that sounds, like, semi-interesting, but, like, this, first of all, could have been, like, a trilogy. I know trilogies weren't big back then. I guess they were big, because Hunger Games came out. Anyway, it could have been, like, a trilogy, and maybe it would have been a little more interesting, but, like, why couldn't we just, like, up the ages? Moving on to better things, I also read, I actually tried a lot of iconic books this year. The Kinder Poison series this year. Why did I wait so long? To read this series? Because this was fantastic. I loved every second of the series, and I need to buy the rest of the series. I only have The Cruelest Mercy, which is kind of random. I just randomly have the second book, but because it was on my wish list and somebody bought me the second book. But now I need to go buy the first and last book in hardcover. I know it just came out in paperback, the last one. Amazing. I love them so much. It was like heart racing, like intense, and it was such a good time. I loved every second of that. So I heard it's like semi-Egyptian inspired, and I'm Egyptian, so like cosplay, maybe? We'll see. I think it's really funny how, like, my emotions shift really fast. Like, I was just, like, talking about the Vampire Academy, like, really passionately, and less than 30 seconds later, I'm over here gushing about Kinder Poison, like, nothing ever happened. And that's on Duality. Okay, Our Ancestors Did Not Breathe this year. Loved it. Slay. This is such a good book. Going with Echoes and Empires, I did actually have the arc of the second one, which is Legends and Liars. So I'm actually going to put that over here. Don't make me talk about it, because I hate it. This, like, this, like, heartbeat happening here, that's not on purpose. They're all in the same... I don't know why I did that. New Syrian Girl. I loved this book. Boudica Book Club read it, and I hope everyone enjoyed it as much as we did. Boudica Book Club also read Our Ancestors Did Not Breathe this year. Slay on both counts. These were such good books. I cried in next New Syrian Girl. Just a heads up. Like, I think y'all know I cry often, but, like, I cried. So get the tissues ready. Bonesmith, I love Nikki's other books, and this one did not disappoint. We're putting it in exclamation point category. I'm gonna run out of space, by the way. I just realized I might have to do some resizing. Bonesmith comes out in July. Don't miss it. It is a fantasy, and in this fantasy there are people with their powers from bones, so it's like very like horror slash thriller like esque, but it's not a myth horror or thriller. The Name Drop by Susan Lee. I actually didn't like this one at all. I feel so bad. I read Susan Lee's other book, Soulmates. I actually ended up selling it. And I really like Susan as a person. Like, let me just get that out of the way. Which, by the way, never influences my reviews or anything. I'm always gonna give you an honest opinion. So, but I felt kind of bad that I didn't like her books because she's such a sweet person. For me, though, like in her first book, Soulmates, which I read last year, so I won't like it's not gonna be on here. It just felt like it needed a little more work. Like that one was like a 3.5 for me, and then in Soulmates there was like a really random like romance scene that was not necessary and not necessarily YA, so it was really strange. The Name Drop for me just felt unrealistic on a lot of counts, and then the chemistry wasn't like fleshed out enough for me, so I'll put it in the middle here because I don't think I gave it like a super low rating. Oh, I also gave this one a 3.5. I think I should lower that rating. I'll move it to the did I like it? I'll move it to the section. I think that fits. Moving on. Stars and Smokes. Stars and Smoke. It's just smoke. There's only one smoke. Marie Lu, I've been a longtime fan of. I did like this one. I do think it was a tiny bit forgettable compared to her other works that I've like loved. So I'll put it in the it was enjoyable but forgettable pile. But it was a solid time. One of her, Marie Lu also is Army. So is Susan Lee, by the way. Slay. And at this MC, I've heard like a lot of people say like different BTS members for the MC. The MC for me was very Jimin JK coded. So I had a good time. Next, I read The Misarrangement of Sana Saeed. This one, I'm gonna put it also down here in the did I like it? It was for me. Like there were parts of it I enjoyed, and then parts of it just didn't live up. I just want a 3-star rating. There was just a lot of miscommunication, which isn't always like necessarily a deal breaker for me, but it was so much miscommunications, and the characters were getting a little frustrating. So everything else was great. The Muslim rep was solid, so good Muslim rep book. So I read this children's book called The Majid Kamal Loves. It was a really good children's book. I don't read too many children's books usually, but this one was really good. I'm gonna squeeze it in here because I'm running out of space. We're gonna put it in the exclamation point. I read all of the like Zara's Rules middle grade series. There's like 3 of them that I read. They were a good time. I had fun. I'm gonna say these were like it was enjoyable but forgettable. Like they weren't like life-changing or anything. I had a good time. I'm actually going to put all of these in the it was enjoyable but forgettable pile. Alright, next one is a popular book talk one. This is Emily Henry's Happy Place. I know a lot of people didn't like Happy Place. I liked Happy Place. Would I make the decisions that these characters made? Absolutely not. But this is a book. It's fiction. I had fun. I always say Emily Henry's books more about the characters for me than the romance, and I did like this one. So I'm gonna I do think I need to lower my rating though. I'm gonna put this one in the middle here. It was like the exclamation point, but also enjoyable but forgettable. We're gonna start to get into the part of the year where I started really disliking books. And it's not that I became harsher by any means. I just happened to read a lot of books back to back that I didn't like. Much Ado About Nada. This was such an anticipated read for me. I loved Uzma's other books. Really looking forward to this one. I loved the cover. I didn't vibe with this book at all. I could not stand the love interest. The third act, like breakup stuff, I didn't think it should have been resolved. Like the way it was resolved, I got so frustrated. So there's something in the book that happens halfway that very much comes off as very much non-halal, and then you learn later that it was halal. So don't stress Muslim rep wise. Like it was fine. First of all, on that point, I disagree slightly on it being halal part. But like that's splitting hairs. Like I'm not a scholar or something. I think it's such an iffy thing that it's And then I just I disliked the love interest so bad, and I liked him more in the beginning than I liked him at the end. So I feel like in terms of character development and an arc, we went backwards. And so I don't think they should have been together. I was like, if you don't leave him and go away, live your life, girl. I'm just gonna put this on here. I hope other people like it. Muslim Rap-wise, it's fine. So there's some little iffiness in the middle that I don't completely agree with, but like that's a personal decision. Muslim Rap-wise, it's fine. I didn't like the book. Moving on. Give Me a Sign. Loved this book. This was so good. I'd actually saw my solo experiences again. Solid book. I'm gonna squeeze you up here. It actually has Def Rep, this was my first time reading Def Rep, so I clearly need to expand my diversity in my reading a bit. I thought it was lovely. The romance was so good, and it shed a lot of. These books like aren't meant to be like, I'm not saying like, oh, they're here to be educational, educate me, but it definitely expanded my horizons a bit, so I enjoyed it. You already know how I feel about these infinite threads. I don't know if it's Korea boo bad. Put you in the middle here, like the halfway. I have a whole other video. If you want to hear my full thoughts on these infinite threads, there's a whole video you can watch. 40 Words for Love. This was Aisha Said. I don't know if I've read her work before. I'd heard of her before. It was okay. I didn't like some parts of this book. But it wasn't bad by any means. It was okay. A Far Wilder Magic. So this was my first experience with Alison Saff's books. I'd heard of her books a lot, so I really want to get into it. I do think her books are forgettable. I don't know if that's a controversy. I read both her books, Far Wilder Magic, and I read Down Comes the Night. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you right now. I can't tell you what Down Comes the Night is about. Far Wilder Magic, I can kind of tell you what it's about. I think that's one of they're hunting a fox. Down Comes the Night, I can't tell you what it's about. I'm gonna look it up right now. Oh, this is the one where she goes and heals the dude in the castle. I enjoyed the book, but like I couldn't tell you what it was about. So I think it was good, but they're very much forgettable for me. And I know people love Down Comes the Night, and I enjoyed it, but I was just like, this isn't like life-changing. That's that. Threads That Bind. If you follow me on Instagram, which I hope you do if you're watching this, I loved Threads That Bind. I talked about it so much. This is such a good book. Blew me away. Would definitely sell my soul to read this again for the first time. Song Like Silver, Flame Like Night. This one was also so good. I was really looking forward to this one, and I'm so happy I enjoyed it, because I had heard some mixed things from people. Such a fun time. It was such a good fantasy. We're almost done, guys. Okay, For the Throne. This was so disappointing to me, and I'm gonna put this in the middle here. I loved For the Wolf, but I was so excited to read For the Throne. It was just so disappointing. I was buddy reading this book, so I read it over the course of months, and it dragged on for so long, and I still don't fully understand what happened or why. Like, there were sometimes like the characters would do this, and then it ended up being completely pointless, and I'd be like, so why do we do that? Anyway, A Magic Seeps in Poison. I almost DNF'd this one. I really thought about DNFing it. I didn't like this at all. I'm gonna put it here in the middle. It's not. So this book starts off really strong. So let me say that. The book starts off really strong. I enjoyed the magic system. I liked the characters, etc., etc. And then, like, at some point in the book, there's this shift, and the character starts having motivations, like, seem to come out of nowhere. Like, in the beginning, and I don't think this is a spoiler, in the beginning, her motivations were family. And then out of nowhere, she becomes, like, super political, which is fine if it made sense, but it didn't. Like, it just felt out of nowhere. And so, by the end, I was like, I, like, don't want to keep reading this. This one, Barnes & Noble's, like, YA book awards for the year over Lemon Trees. And maybe I'm a little biased because Lemon Trees is one of my favorite books of the year, but, like, after I saw it at one, I was like, let me bump this up the TBR. Maybe it's really good. And I read it, and I was like, this is what won? And maybe that's mean. Maybe that's a little mean. But that's my opinion. Okay, next. Huda F. Cares. I love this book. This book isn't out yet. I have exclusive access. I have an ARC. This book actually, fun fact, I got to help Huda with this book a little bit because I live in Orlando and this book takes place in Disney. And she was like, hey, I need reference photos. Would you go to Disney and like take reference pictures for me? And I was like, absolutely, I'd love to. What a cool opportunity. So I went and took pictures of like the Disney parks. So she'd have reference photos for illustrations. Also, this book was just so good. Like, the Muslim rep, Huda's Fahmi's Muslim rep always slays. And as somebody who has a lot of siblings, it was really relatable. Okay, I only have a few left. Trials of Apollo. This is the second book in the series I think I read. I'm gonna put this with the other Trials of Apollo book. Continue to love it. I really like Meg as a character. Clockwork Princess. I'm actually doing a Shadowhunters reread with some friends. And we're going through all the Shadowhunters books. So we just finished the Infernal Devices. I would give it 5 stars. I do think my rating of Clockwork Princess is fueled by nostalgia, for sure. Because they were making some really good points. So I'm going to try to squeeze it in up here. There you go. Something More. This is my first book that I've read by a Palestinian author. It also, I don't know if this is my first experience with autistic rep. But it features an autistic main character. And Something More was such a fun book. And I can't describe it any other way but that it was just fun and the vibes were there. And I was having a really good time. It was a little messy, because 15-year-olds are a little mature, but that's fine. I really had a good time with this one. I'm going to try to squeeze you in over here. By the way, these two here are in the exclamation point category. I just ran out of room. We have 5 more books. Okay. Queen Bee. This book, the drama, this is, okay, I don't know if this is, I don't know if it's correct to comp this to Bridgerton, but I'm going to comp it to Bridgerton. But it's a historical romance, and this was so much fun. It got so messy. I was living for every dramatic moment. This was actually a recommendation from Azanta, and we know Azanta is never wrong. She's gonna laugh when she watches this back. Last 5-star read of this half of the year. Painted Devils. I'm gonna stick it up right up here. I'll stick it over here. I have room. I already made like a million posts about this book at this point. I loved Painted Devils. That ending ruined me. I've messaged Margaret and I was like, I need the next book right now. Macmillan, if you're watching this, send me one. Last series is actually the Kiss of Deception series. So I want to read the series Dance of Thieves, because I've heard about it a lot, but I heard that there's like there's a series you should read first because it's connected in the same world and all that. And I'm kind of one of those people who is a stickler for that if there's a pre-series, I'll read it. That's actually what I did with Six of Crows. I wanted to read Six of Crows, and then I heard those Shadow and Bone, so I read Shadow and Bone. It's something I'm a stickler for, so I always tend to do it. So I read the 3 books. They were They were just okay. They weren't great. They weren't terrible. They were fine. I do hope Dance of Thieves is better, because I went through all this to read them. But honestly, I read these over the course of a day or 2, so it's fine. Those are 57 books read. And that's my mid-year reading check-in. It's hard to believe half the year has already flown by. My goal for this year is 100 books, and I'm at 57, so I feel pretty confident that I should be able to reach this one. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. If you agree with my rankings, if you disagree with my rankings. If you do your own tier ranking, tag me and let me see them. I think this is such a fun way to show our books that we've read so far this year and kind of just check in with each other. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye!